In this video, I will talk about how you can make a smoother surface on a store-bought canvas. This is really useful if you are going for a high degree of realism in your painting, because it can be distracting when you can see the surface texture of the canvas too much. Even the canvas with a label that says smooth texture can still be a little too much texture. It's not hard to remedy this, it just takes a little work. The canvas you buy in the art store is usually gessoed with an acrylic gesso. The word gesso is actually the wrong term to use because a traditional gesso is made of chalk, pigment and rabbit skin glue, and is meant for using on a panel. The traditional way of making a ground for a canvas is called an oil ground and is made from chalk, pigment, rabbit skin glue and oil. Now that would be a different video. I don't want to get into semantics, so for practical reasons I'll continue to call it gesso. The gesso used on commercial canvas is made with acrylic, polymer and latex, and it's quite elastic. They make it this way so that the surface of the canvas won't crack as it moves. But often the surface is maybe not the nicest to paint on. It feels, well, plasticky. It has something to do with how absorbent it is. Once you've tried a higher quality gesso or ground, you'll notice how nice it is and how different it is. I like to compare it to being used to wearing a sort of scratchy Shetland wool sweater, and then you upgrade to a cashmere sweater and somehow it's really hard to go back. No offense to Shetland wool, of course. Bah. Getting ready to gesso with these materials. Gesso, some water for thinning the gesso, a plastic jar for mixing, a stirring stick, a flat brush from the hardware store, sandpaper number 220, sandpaper number 400, some cloth or a rag, and of course the canvas. A bit of advice about buying gesso. Remember, commercial gesso is often of low quality. When you buy a store-bought gesso, I would recommend one from the company Golden. There's also one from Soho Art Materials in New York that I love, and which is the one I'll be using today. I'll link to those products below. I'm sure there are others too that are great. In fact, if you know of any, please let me know in the comment section. These brands are a bit more expensive than buying a big bucket of cheap gesso, but take note that they will actually last quite a bit longer as well. So all in all, maybe it's the same expense in the long run. I'm doing this outside because of the dust when I start sanding. Here I have a small store-bought canvas. I'm going to use a number 220 sandpaper. I'm sanding it lightly, just taking off some of the texture, not all of it. The gesso I have is very concentrated and has the consistency of Greek yogurt. It would be too hard to paint with it this way, and the layers would dry too slow. So it's best to thin it with water. I'm scooping up a good amount into this plastic jar. Adding enough water to make the consistency more like kefir, or a thickness you can imagine will be easier to paint with. Add little by little and keep stirring till you get the right thickness. Make sure it's completely blended together without too many lumps. A bit more water, I think. It's very close. When you paint your layers, you don't want to slap it on too thick. Don't use too much paint. Better to have thinner layers, but more of them. You paint the layers in alternating directions. One layer horizontal, one layer vertical, turning the canvas each time. The idea is that the brush marks don't all go in one direction, but that they diffuse each other by crisscrossing. While waiting for the layer to dry, I protect the brush from drying by wrapping it in a plastic bag. It can stay moist for quite a while this way. So I will be giving this canvas 5 layers. I let it dry to the touch each time before painting the next layer. Depending on the temperature, drying time could be between 10 to 30 minutes. I live in sunny California right now, but if you live in a cold and damp place, it could take longer. Before I paint the 5th layer, I sand lightly with a number 220 to take off the worst roughness. I did this over a couple of days, but that was because I got busy with other things. You could do it over one day, depending on how warm it is in your studio or outside. You don't always have to do 5 layers. Sometimes 3 to 4 will do, but having more layers give you more of a cushion when you start sanding. I've even done 8 layers to be able to sand more. Then finishing off with a fine sandpaper number 400 to get the smooth surface we're after. We still want to have a tooth, which means it won't be completely smooth. There's still a bit of texture left. There has to be some texture, otherwise it's too difficult to paint on. Sort of like painting on a stone, not nice. Then making sure to wipe off the dust. I now have a much smoother, softer and a bit more absorbent surface than the original canvas texture. I think this is good. If you have any comments, please comment below and please like if you like it and subscribe if you like my channel. Thank you.